Hello and welcome back to the second best show after those two Gamorrean guards wrestling from Mandalorian. Remember that?
That was a good show.
That was sick. Anyway, I'm Max.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Luke.
This is Force for Thought.
I remember seeing a Reddit comment about that fight of the Gamorrean guards wrestling, and they said that it just looks like guys in body paint with masks on. Someone was like, dude, fuck you. What do you want?
That's exactly what that is.
That is not false.
I heard they didn't hire real Gamorrean guards for that scene. Can you believe that?
I know.
The
So
nerve.
cheap. With
Disney.
with the volume, I know ever since Disney took over.
Cutting corners. All
Yep.
right. Anyway, so hello and welcome back. This is Force for Thought. Today we are doing an interesting kind of ranking because we are ranking our favorite costumes, armor, outfits, trooper designs, basically anything that just makes us look at a character and go, wow, that looks cool. So that's about it. I didn't really put a whole lot of logic into my list. I just kind of literally went, what do I like to look at, and wrote 10 of them down. Do you guys have anything you want to say off the rip?
Yes, two things. One, I was not told that animation would count, so none of mine are animated. I wish I would have known this. Sorry, tech. Number two, costume is my favorite word that Luke Taylor says. I have a favorite word that everyone says that I know, and costume is mine for Luke.
Oh, you're in for a treat because the costume episode was my idea. I really like all the costumes in Star Wars. I really like talking about them. And now that we got video going, it's finally feasible for us to do this episode. So
Yep.
if you're listening on Spotify or wherever, Apple Podcasts, you can head over to YouTube to see the video. We'll put up a quick picture of each costume as we talk about it.
And wear them, right? You're going to model.
God, I wish.
Can you just say costume for me real quick?
Costume. I don't want to say it anymore.
I know, now it feels dirty. I don't like that.
Cut that. I don't want that out there.
All right. Well, I think this one's going to go a little bit quicker just because I don't know how much we have to say about him. So we're doing our top 10. Matthew, I thought you could go first. What is your number 10?
My number 10 costume is Lando Calrissian, specifically the Cloud City costume. I think it encapsulates Lando Calrissian perfectly, right? He's got a cape on. It also feels very much of its time in the fact that it feels a little bit Star Trek-y. I think with like the powder blue, and I don't know, he feels like he has so much swagger, which is a word I would not use very often, but it works, I think, really well for him.
When you're talking about Billy D. Williams, you can throw the word swagger around.
Exactly. And I love that it's blue. It has a little bit of that gold lining. And then in Solo, he is fully like gold as well. I think that's a slick costume, but specifically the Cloud City one.
You're going to see a recurring theme in my list, and it's capes. Love capes.
Like Seinfeld, is that guy wearing a cape?
One of the best. Yeah, Lando
It's good
on
cape weather.
Cloud City. That's a good cape. It's an interesting... Oh, yeah, we got a picture for our benefit. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we don't.
Fucking shit.
It is, yeah, really, really good cape.
All right.
Good cape.
Luke, your number 10?
My number 10, Zori Bliss from The Rise of Skywalker. That was Poe's girlfriend character. You can see her up on the screen there. And she's one of those characters, doesn't get that much development, doesn't have that much screen time, but she looks really cool. We talked about whether or not we were including armor in our costume design episode, and we said we were, and I think along with that goes guns to an extent, but dual wielding is just so much cooler than single wielding, I think, almost every time. And Zori Bliss looks really cool with it. I like her helmet.
Would you prefer if you actually if you were in the Star Wars universe, would you rather have two blasters or one?
Two, for sure.
I don't think I would.
Twice as good. Why not?
I would feel
Not like you're giving up a shield.
I don't know. I feel like you would for some reason. I also feel like the aim is less, right? I feel like you would have a better aim with solid.
I'm spraying and praying either way, so give me more.
I also wouldn't use pistols, I don't think either. I don't know.
Well, that's fair. But I feel like every time we see Captain Rex use two blasters, he's shooting them in almost different directions, left and right.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show that it's way harder to aim.
Also, Zori Bliss, do you think her head is a weird shape? That's why it's so long in the back? You ever think about that?
We only see her eyes, so we know that's human-esque, but yeah, it could be Kiadi Mundi, but the other way.
Interesting.
Kiadi Mundi, but
Just
the other way.
Human-ish version of Alien or something.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
I
all I'm
also
gonna think
like
about
that her visor is retractable. That was a fun moment
Yeah.
in the theaters because we've seen a lot of masks like this, but never like that.
All right.
Bliss.
Well, we'll move on to my number 10. It's a pretty recent addition. It is Captain Enoch. Now,
Oh, that's a good call.
it might be because there's still a lot of mystery surrounding the character. We literally know nothing about him, but it took my breath away when he revealed himself on screen. You had his back to the camera, and then he turned, and we were watching it together, and I feel like all three of us were like, yep, that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's cool. It's a stormtrooper with a face, and that's rad. And it feels very Roman Empire-esque. I like the color palette, the little bit of gold, a little bit of like maroon and red and white and black. It all cohesively works.
Mm-hmm. It's a very distinct choice for Star Wars. It's very different from what we've seen in the
Yeah.
past. And you're right. When we were watching it together, we all just, it was like all of our brains turned off and we all just pointed to the screen like, that one looked
Yeah.
good.
We all turned into monkeys. We're like, ooh.
And I think you can look back on that episode when we reviewed it, and I think the second thought was, "What's his name?" And I got it completely wrong.
Did he even talk? Is there any reason he's cool other than face?
No, just face. Stormtrooper face is,
that's all I
is
need.
pretty coll. That's all you need. Yeah.
All right, Matthew, you're number 9.
My number 9 is Jonathan Solo. I have a new thing that I'm doing in my personal life, where I'm just adding things like Jersey Michaels. It's a lot more fun. But yes, no, Han Solo is my number 9. Again, you can probably see the classic trend, but I think his costume specifically encapsulate him as a character. He's got like that Henley shirt on that's like half unbuttoned. He's got a vest. He just feels like he is a smuggler that doesn't really put that much effort into his outfit, and you can tell who he is from his outfit alone. And I think it's much like, honestly, Lando. You can tell a lot about who that person is from their costume. And I think that's why it's a perfect costume. I don't know if it's necessarily the coolest, but it's obviously now it's so distinguishable and so recognizable. And again, as we discussed a couple months ago, old reliable.
Yes.
Not the flashiest.
That's true. That is one of those costumes that I definitely didn't put on my list. And it's because if you listen to our lightsaber battles ranked, you'll know I did something similar where, because I'm a very analytical person, I tend to try to quantify things that won't be. So this episode was no exception. I tried to rank every costume in 4 categories. We had aesthetic, effort, practicality, and gut. I gave less
Gut.
credence to
Gut
my
as
gut impact.
Okay.
My
I was like,
gut
does it
feel.
show their gut? Like, well, what was that called?
Anime Coliseum? 10 out of 10. Oh, God.
Oh, God.
But the Han Solo costume, I was thinking about that and others similar to it. Aesthetic is solid, but in terms of like effort, for all I know, that's just what Harrison Ford was wearing that day. It doesn't even look very spacey.
Hey, that's enough for me, because the man single-handedly brought vests into the mainstream. And whether a guy admits it or not, anytime you put on a vest, the first thing they think is, I kind of look like Han Solo, don't I?
Yep, every single time. Unless you put on the puffy Marty McFly one, then you think I look like Marty McFly.
Yeah.
Or if it's a sweater, Chandler Bing.
I don't know my fashion history well. Were sweaters or were vests not that common before the 70s?
I feel like they were probably more, I feel like they were common in the fact that you're wearing a 3-piece suit. In that fact, they probably were.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I wasn't born. I was alive.
I know. I like to imagine that vests didn't exist until 1977.
We'll need to get either.
Well, 76, so they shot.
yeah.
We'll need to get either.
The costuming department was
That
like, guys, you gotta
CG.
check this out.
Yeah.
We'll need to get either a fashion historian or an old on the podcast at some point to tell us stuff like this.
All right. Luke.
What number are we on?
9, baby. And here's
number
a clue.
9, Anakin from the Clone Wars. This would not have made my list if he did not make the transition into live action like he did in
Oh.
Ahsoka, but he looked good as hell in Ahsoka. And it's the color. It's the kind of costume that can only be designed in animation and then brought into live action. Because if it was just in live action, it's not hokey, but it's just
You would
out
design
of
it
place.
differently. Yes. Yeah.
But because it did make that journey from animation to live action, it looks out of place, but also it fits because I've seen Anakin in it in animation so much, but it just took my breath away when I saw it in Ahsoka, and it's not like it was a new costume. I always thought that the Clone Wars armor, like the breastplates that only goes from like neck to Adam's apple for whatever reason, I thought that would look hokey in the real world, and no, it looks good as hell.
Correctamundo.
Yeah, absolutely. No disagreement there. Well, my number 9 is Dengar. He had approximately half a second worth of screen time, but I have his action figure, and he's just one of those characters. Every time I look at him, I'm just like, Yeah, that looks sweet. He has cool armor, a huge rifle, and he's like half mummified. I don't know why he covers himself like that, but it's awesome.
I mean, he's got a lot of scars on his face, so you can presume it goes up to his semi-Kiadi-Mundi head.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't
the
think
guy
he has
just
some
scarred all
Kiadi-Mundi
around.
head. I think it's just
Look at the
bandage.
picture real quick. Like how tall that is.
It's a lot of bandages.
Yeah, well, it's just.
I think
yeah.
I think he was like an explosion victim, and that's why.
Oh, that's brutal. I didn't know that backstory.
You don't
about
really
it.
hear
I
of
don't
many
really know it
explosion
either.
victims. Usually it's casualties. Usually it's like, oh, a burn victim or something. No, explosion
I
victim.
was affected by an explosion.
Because we're also doing costumes, it also goes hand in hand with like cosplay, and I think that's going to be a common theme in a lot of mine. Is I just saw a cosplay of someone one time doing it, and I was like, wow, that is really good. And I saw at Star Wars Celebration, I saw someone cosplaying as Dengar, and it was amazing. And I was like, wow, that is a great costume.
Dengar, 1000%. I mean, I love when shows or movies do that, when they show a specific like rogue gallery of people only for a split second, and you get Bosk, you get Dengar, you get all these, IG-11, you get all these interesting people that you know basically nothing about, and then you are left to theorize about them forever and what their personalities are. Obviously, we get him a little more in animation stuff, but it's still like, I want to know more about them. It's so cool, especially now. It's like I also have the Dengar action figure, thanks to Max Taylor, I believe. I'm gonna say Max. I think you got me that one. But I love the Dengar action figure because even he is really cool, and I also want to get a Bosk action figure now as well, which you have on your shelf, which is why I turned.
Yeah, the Dengar action figure's right up there, and I've been looking at it a lot too. And I don't want to be Mr. Negative because I just kind of disliked Matt's pick, and now I'm about to dislike
What?
Max's pick. The Han Solo, I didn't love it. I
What
don't love the costume. Dengar,
We're getting
it
real
is
competitive now.
black and brown armor plating across your body. That is so
No, he's
boring.
cool.
If
He's
someone told me,
cool,
He's
and the
half-
head wrapping does a lot of work for him. His Australian accent also carries him very far forward, but that doesn't. I'm not taking that into account for costume.
No, that's somebody you want to know
I mean-
about just by the way they look.
Paint the armor. Do something more interesting. It's just like stock issue.
No, it's sweet.
I love it. I think it's badass. And I
Let me
also
get it real
always
quick.
think.
I'm just gonna keep it.
You can if you want, I
No,
don't care.
I'm not good.
I also always think about like what the conversations were like behind the scenes when they're making these costumes, because like he had, like I said, half a second of screen time, and someone was like, "Yeah, that looks cool, but what if we just like wrapped his head?" It's like, why? Like, I don't know. Don't worry about it. Like he has half a second of screen time. No one's gonna think about it, and here we are, 40 years later, over 40 years later. Like,
I bet.
what's going on with that?
I bet it
guy?
was because he didn't look cool enough with just the armor. Someone was just like, he's wearing a flak jacket. It looks
Well,
like he's
it
on the bomb
succeeded.
squad.
They said, "Hey, this ups it to a 10," and I agree.
1000%.
All right. Well,
I think I don't know. I don't want to spoil it if we're going to talk about more of those bounty hunters in Empire Strikes Back, but I think he has the fourth coolest outfit of a group of 6, where 2 of them are droids.
I'll take that.
that is outrageous. But we'll hold on to that comment
Yeah.
for later. All right, let's move on to our number 8s.
Speaking of bandages, I'm going the Tusken Raiders, specifically from A New Hope. I think the Tusken Raiders, much like Dengar, but more so, make you intrigued and want to know more about them and who they are and what they are. And then when you see Book of Boba Fett, you kind of want to retract that statement. But I think
Some of us like the Book of Boba Fett.
I know it's too harsh. I think, but just the costumes in general and just the costume for Tusken Raiders are so intriguing. Obviously, like who are these people? Why? How are they living on the desert? Not even why, but just like how? Like how are they physically? Obviously, they're bandaged up. Is that a mask? Is that their face? Is that a breathing apparatus? There's so many mystery, especially when you first see the Tusken Raiders, that you just want to know more. And the fact that they are used so minimally at first, I think is a huge win.
Yeah. So I know if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know how we do rankings. We like to try to compare lists beforehand so that we don't get duplicates. And this was actually one that got bumped off my list because I
Oh.
agree. But it was specific to the Book of Boba Fett. I said it was the Tusken Raider with the Tusken Warrior with the
Yeah.
black robes
Mhm.
because, yeah, we have our feelings on the Book of Boba Fett. But those Tuskens did look sweet.
They did.
I wanted to bring up the chieftain from the Tuskens village in the
Yeah.
Book of Boba Fett. That guy
That's
looked
another good
awesome.
one.
He had like robes and stuff and jewelry.
Yeah. Good pick. I agree with it.
Yeah, Tuskens are neat.
Luke,
All right.
number 8.
Number 8, I have Kira from her time. Wow, that's interesting. I only wrote Crimson Dawn. I meant from the comics when she was running Crimson Dawn, because it is a different outfit. We'll put it on the screen for the viewer, but I'll just describe it to you in detail for now. It's a similar logo across the neck. No way, did you get it? Not exactly. No, I'm sorry.
All right.
Um,
Max set these up.
But the viewers seeing it. It's really cool. It's got a big cape with a different colored lining than it does the outside, which, like I said, capes are really cool, and it's even cooler when they're multicolored. Like what you were saying, Max, I saw someone cosplaying this costume, and it's a deeper pull. I mean, a comics costume you don't see very often at all, and I still recognized it right away, which is a sign of a good costume design. And yeah, Kira rocks it.
And comics are such a great medium, though, too, if you're into costumes, because, like you were talking about Dengar not being colorful enough or anything like that. In the comics, they really have free reign to do just about anything that they want. So
Yeah,
it's
and
a fun place.
I mean, we have the toy of Dengar and comics of Dengar, but if it was just The Empire Strikes Back, we would just have that like one shot of him in the background. In comics, every single shot is an action shot, full body, the coolest look you could have, the best show of all your costumes if you got a cool costume.
The color is something really interesting in comics. That could be a whole other thing too, but the fact that someone draws it and then there's a separate colorist to color those is an insane art form, and to see how those actually blend together. I mean, it is insane. If anything, it's even, I feel like, weirdly harder to do that in comics. And yeah, it's achieved. Just because, like, how do you know, like, these specific colors are going to go well together? Like, what's that color palette? When you just think about a color palette for every single panel, that is insane.
Yeah, I've thought about that before too, because it blows me away that that's the way it works, because I've drawn a picture before and I've colored a picture before, and coloring is way easier. I don't see how those are, like, if you could draw that well to be a comic artist, how can you not color it in? It seems like such an afterthought.
It's also probably just a production process where you're just like, next, because drawing it takes so long, you know?
That would make sense, and I get it if it's like 1950, but these days, I mean, they draw them on their iPad, and then they could just like drop the color in, from what I can tell.
Kind of.
I don't know. I'm sure there's more artistry to it, and I don't know anything about it.
I'm not entirely sure, especially nowadays, how it all works with technology and everything, because I know they also use like some sort of digital effects sometimes where they can like take literal stills from the movies and like superimpose them into comics, because a lot of Star Wars comics used to do that, and they got, rightfully so, a lot of flack for it because it did not look good at all. But that's just to say I don't know how it works either.
The poor man's AI.
Yeah, we'll have to try to bring someone on pod sometime, some sort of comic book author to try to talk about that.
Yeah, we got
I would
that
love
reach.
to.
We got that pool.
Definitely.
No problem.
It's going to come out after that. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they've been on already.
All right. Luke, you're number 8.
Kira from Crimson Dawn.
Yes, I will talk about my number 8 now. And Matt, fret not, it is Tech.
Yep. This would
Oh, thank God.
probably be my number 2.
Yeah, you said that, and I was like, don't worry, he'll be represented. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the coolest Bad Batch guy. Well,
What?
no,
Well,
I'm not going to say that right now, but well,
Why? What do
I
you
think
think?
he's the coolest looking Bad Batch character.
Me too.
He's a good looking guy.
Also, representation for glasses. So,
Yes.
as 3 glasses wears, I mean, that was a huge thing when I saw that. I was like, I mean, that sounds like a joke, but it's like,
So is Dr. Pershing also on your list then?
Yes.
no, because he doesn't have thick glasses.
He has his glasses though.
He's got little baby ones.
He's not in my top 10, but I'll give him an honorable mention
No, he
because
does, yes.
I remember when we first saw him on screen and someone was like, oh, because he also kind of has like a little bit of a stubble, doesn't he? And so people were like, oh, Max, you can go as that guy. Like, you kind of look like him.
Yeah.
I should have included him for that reason alone.
Do we also like the other girl clone then in the Bad Batch that has the glasses? Do those count?
Yes, we do. Besides the,
Or they-
the
they're too
seizure glasses.
augmented.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna say no. I think those are just blue blockers.
That's true. She looks like she
Yeah.
works at a computer a lot, maybe. Yeah, I could see that. Blue blockers.
All right, Matt, you're number 7.
Real quick, are you thinking overall design, or do you have a specific season costume? Because those are different now.
Oh, that's true. I'd probably go with season 2 because I kind of like the lighter colors.
Interesting. Yep, I'd go season 1. I like the.
Ah, you son of a bitch.
I'd go season 2. Tie
All right,
broken.
There you go. Majority rules.
And we don't have to worry about season 3.
We'll see. I don't know why I'm flip-flopping.
Actually,
What's going on?
Given when this comes out, that might not age well. All right, number 7, Matthew.
The Jawas.
I saw this on your list, and I'm very interested.
Okay, so
Convince me.
I don't think I deciding about convincing the Jawas. It's obviously very plain robes which fit in within the Star Wars universe, especially in A New Hope. The biggest thing though is the mystery they hold, and in its simplicity, I think it holds a lot to it. It's again in specifically A New Hope. There's just little glowing eyes within that. What is that? besides, right? It's like it's I think it wins in the simplicity. Like if like Dengar is just like, okay, well that's just kind of things thrown together, even though I disagree. I think the Jawas succeed in the fact that it holds things back from the viewer, which makes it in turn more intriguing. Again, it's like, is it the most flashy costume? Absolutely not. But I think it gives you a lot of intrigue, and I'm still looking at these characters and wondering what's beyond that. And I still, when we went to Star Wars Night at COSI, which is the Science Museum in Columbus, that was like the first person I wanted to get a picture with of cosplay wise, is because it looks so cool cosplay wise, because it's just a black void with two glowing eyes, and I love it. It's spooky, it's mystery. I dig it.
Well, now we're just getting into the semantics of costume design versus creature design. And I won't fault you for it, because last month I did include a Weird Al song on our best Star Wars songs.
Yep.
So
I was wearing the same outfit. It was crazy.
To each his own, but in terms of the Jawa's outfit, it's a brown robe. I don't think it can get much lower effort than that.
Think above the robe. The face.
I'm thinking under the robe, baby.
Oh, baby. What else is glowing?
They're very furry, I hear.
All right.
From the Mandalorian, Pellemano did. I'm not just making that up.
No one knows what he's talking about. All right, Luke, you're number 7.
We got actual fans listening to our podcast, so they do. Number 7, Krennic.
It's a great choice.
I wanted to include someone of the Imperials, because the Imperial costume in general, the whole Imperial design, very prim, proper, and then Krennic just drops the baddest cape I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, Lando's is cool, but it goes down to like his hips or maybe his butt. Krennic's goes down like 3 feet past his feet.
Yeah.
It is awesome. He needs a, what's the thing that a bride has to carry her trail? He needs one of those guys to pick up his cape and walk with him. He looks great. It also does a great service that there's so many like promotional images of Krennic, of him like in the beach at Scarif with the cape like in the water all around him, and that looks sick. But
I think it's so prim and proper that fits his personality, which is obviously the Imperial, but also I think Dedra from Andor also is like the second best scary looking outfit. No cape, but I think her outfit looks very much like Krennic's. Also, Galen Erso in that specific opening scene was going to be on my list, because it looks like he's wearing an Under Armour shirt always to me. It looks like the Under Armour logo. It's
when he's on the farm?
Yes.
I can't picture it off the top of my head.
No worries, I'll Google it.
That's funny.
The viewer's probably watching it right now.
The interesting thing about like some of the color theory, right, is that like white is supposed to symbolic like purity, and so it's kind of cool to see, because I think Krennic was the first Imperial that we ever saw wearing white, right? And so it's kind of like twisted, where it's like,
you gotta say stuff like this. That's just gonna rack my brain now. I can't focus. Was he the first one we saw wearing white? That seems crazy.
No, I think he's correct.
Wow.
I'm trying to think.
Because you'll think of like...
I'm sure we'll get corrected in the comments if it's
so
not
it was
right.
like before anything Disney, basically.
But that adds another element, though, to it, doesn't it? It's like, these are the Imperials. Like, we know they're the bad guys, but they believe that they're the good guys. And I feel like that comes through in some of the costuming. And it's like some of the white just like kind of shows you that. It's like, oh, man, you guys think you're really doing good here.
Another reason Rogue One is fantastic.
And then Palpatine wore a black cloak for like 30 years. He knew who he was.
Yeah, he knew, There was no going around it.
Ever since his face was deformed, he was like, I just got to embrace it now.
Yeah.
All right. Me. My number 7. My number 7 is Enfys Nest.
Good answer. Good answer.
Again, going back to seeing good cosplays, I've seen a couple Enfys Nests, and they are elaborate. And I feel like you don't get a good idea of just how elaborate of a costume it is until you see it in person. But like, there's like a bunch of different fabrics, textures, all sorts of stuff going on. One of the most unique helmets, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like her so much, is because it is just completely different than everything else. Like, I defend my Dengar pick, but to Luke's credit, it's just like pretty basic Star Wars armor and a headdress, right?
It's not even Star Wars armor. It's just
okay. We're letting it go. We're on Enfys Nest now. But Enfys Nest, and if we're including weapons, she has like that vibro staff that she uses. She has like these gauntlet shield things that come out.
Yeah, like fans.
Yeah, it's all sorts of great stuff.
That's all it is. It's a fan. They flop up and down.
I feel like it's the opposite of Dengar, like you said, because where Dengar's is kind of boring and low effort, this is very high effort. They just kept like adding layers upon layers. It's like, all right, we got a cool helmet. And it's like, okay, let's give her a fur coat and some fan gauntlets and some bone teeth necklaces and a gravity hammer. And it's like, my God, it was good already. You just keep going.
They had one guy behind the scenes just quoting Kylo Ren, more, more.
And it was Adam Driver, actually, too. I think that's the thing that within these costumes is that you can have the more simplistic ones or the more flashy ones, and I think they work so well together. And weirdly, you can you can tell that they're in the same universe, even just by looking. Like even if you look at Dengar and then you look at the Jawas or something, even you're like, oh, those cohesively belong. Versus, I think sometimes in like Star Trek, again, which I love Star Trek too, but I think sometimes they look. And they're supposed to because they're from different worlds and stuff, but they don't look cohesively like their same property. Where I think that's why Star Wars has, a bigger action figure value, right? And just beyond, I think, just slightly more popular in a sense. I think that's a huge reason why. It's because there's brand recognition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Speaking of brand recognition,
Sorry, I had the one last thing I wanted to say about.
oh, first segue ruined.
All right, well,
this
you
better be
you
fucking
can cut
good.
this joke if it doesn't land then. But they just had to make sure that costume was really, really good because it's important to remember that underneath it's just a girl, and that's shocking.
What a plot twist it was.
Yeah, I know we talk about this all the time, but it is shocking the fact that they play it up like it's a huge reveal, or
Yeah.
like we're like, okay,
Like, it's not
Yeah.
shocking unless she looks really, really cool with the mask on.
yeah, it makes no sense. It's such a weird plot point.
All right, Matthew,
All right, speaking of
you're number 6.
whatever, I guess no transition here. No, just a classic Stormtrooper. I prefer these over the sequel trilogy. Troopers. The same thing with the prequels. I like the classic Trooper. I like that they are. I mean, obviously, again, we're talking simplicity here. We're talking iconic. It's just so easy to be able to be swept into this and instantly know who you are. And we're talking about Imperials being in white, but obviously all the Stormtroopers are in white as well. But higher up people as well. Very big difference. But yeah, this is a classic Stormtrooper. I mean, I love the design. It's sleek. It's it's nerve wracking and scary to look at. But yes,
Yeah, it's iconic. I like it. I do prefer the First Order Stormtrooper myself.
I know you
do.
which is fine because they're also rad.
But I think it's because the way, not just the design, but the way they're presented in the universe. In the sequel era, Stormtroopers just seem so much more capable and menacing than the Stormtroopers in the original trilogy. And I know it's like kind of memed, but specifically if you've watched like Star Wars Rebels and you've watched Star Wars Resistance, they're both animation. They're both kid
Yep.
shows, even at the same age range. And the Stormtroopers in Rebels, they could kill like 12 of them in a minute and not even blink. And that goes into play also the power level of Kaz versus Ezra and the general threats that they should be worried about. But you see like 2 Stormtroopers in Resistance and it's trouble. Like you got to run and hide. And I don't know, that plays a part. That I like them better.
Interesting.
They just look meaner. They look like the original trilogy Stormtroopers with a frowny face, with an angry face.
What's your number 6?
My number 6, another clone, Jesse, or another clone armor, Jesse. I took a lot of time because I didn't want to include all armor or all costumes. I wanted to have a nice mix. And
I had to try to narrow it down too, right? I feel like we could just do exclusively clone troopers.
exactly. Jesse is the only clone trooper I included because he's got the Rebel or the Republic logo painted on his helmet. And if you like see him out in battle, like you're another clone and you see him for the first time, you're like, hey, cool helmet. That's pretty badass. And then he takes it off and he's got it tattooed in the same spot on his face. It's like, whoa, for the Republic, sir. Like I would salute that man at full attention. That command, that's so badass.
Yeah.
That is. I'm trying to think of the logistics of how you would actually get that lined up perfectly. Logistical nightmare.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what would happen like after the Clone Wars, like once the Empire or the Republic turn into the Empire and everything like that. But if you've seen the Clone Wars, you know that we don't really have to worry about that, unfortunately, because
That's
it's a very,
definitely not Jesse.
very tragic character.
Yeah. Also, just being like, maybe if you would want to try to blend in or anything, maybe don't get a tattoo on your head.
Have you ever thought about deserting?
Yeah.
Keep your options open for one day.
Someone sees you out in the open, they're just like, "Hey, weren't you that clone trooper?" It's like, "No, you got the wrong guy."
Yeah, he's going. That's maybe it's Dengar.
He covered himself up.
Deck's already
Suspicious.
stacked against him being a clone of all of the other troopers in the Republic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Matt, I respect your number 6 pick. I too like the Stormtrooper, but the only trooper I like better than the Stormtrooper is the Death Trooper. Again, it's another Rogue One original, and it, again, when I saw it in theaters the first time, took my breath away. I was like, that thing looks sick. The all black, they got the little pouches, like with the little, I don't know, I'm assuming it's ammo that they keep in there, but maybe it's snacks. Who knows? And they got like different blasters too. I like that the masks like come down longer in the bottom. I don't know. It's really cool.
This was my
And I'll say this too. I know you guys agree with me because this was the only one that was on all 3 of our lists.
Yep.
Wow.
It makes I love it. I also like the little blinking green light. Sometimes they have it on it. Black and green are my 2 favorite colors. Currently wearing green. Usually wear black. Well, check it out on the video episode. Probably wearing black. And so yeah, I mean it's the ultimate Stormtrooper for me. Besides the normal Stormtrooper because it's a bit more classic. This is on my list and this isn't. But this is, I think, was again on my list and knocked off obviously, but deservedly so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, big fan. Makes me think of the Shadow Trooper from Legends. I think it was Battlefront 1 that originally introduced it, and it was just a Stormtrooper in black armor. And, I mean, it's neat to see it, but
It's just lazy though. They
It
didn't
is
do any-
lazy.
Yeah.
They really cranked up the effort, which is one of my ranking factors, and I appreciate that. They could have just gone with a black Stormtrooper, and it would have gotten the attention that they wanted. It would have been in all the promo shots, and honestly, we'd probably still be talking about it, but we would have been less happy.
Absolutely. All right. Matthew, take us to number 5.
Number 5, Princess Leia on Hoth, specifically Empire Strikes Back.
Good God, I keep forgetting how many of mine got knocked down.
Yeah, I was amazed that both of you had this.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
What are you talking about?
She just looks like she's in snow gear.
Yes, but it's Princess Leia snow gear, which makes it so much sense also thematically in the fact that she's wearing, you know, in A New Hope, she's a little bit, you were led to believe she's more of a damsel in distress character, and she's in this, you know, this princessy dress, and she has her hair done up, and she's obviously, you know, doing her more political role, and then all of a sudden we get this flip side of her, that she is still wearing white, again, more like purity and stuff too, but now she's in her full combat uniform and in Hoth. And so I think stylistically it looks great in the fact that she has a vest on, you know, really kicking it up in 1980. And then also, I mean, it feels like iconic Star Wars, and it also works so well with Hoth, and I think advances her character a little bit more as well. That she is not the one beat character that we know she's not in the end of A New Hope. We get that you know, that fieriness that she has, but then I think it doubles down and it expands it so much, and I think this outfit is stellar.
I agree. I don't want to spoil ahead. I didn't want to include like all clones or all Leia outfits, so I limited myself to just this one Leia outfit. Do you have another Leia outfit later on, or should we talk all Leia right now?
I have one, yeah.
All right, then I'll save most of it for later. But the snowsuit is great. I like that it's a vest. It's not just like a snow coat. It's like a undercoat and then a vest, and she got combat boots with pretty high heels, which I'm sure Carrie Fisher just wore in every scene because she was a short queen,
Yep.
and especially playing opposite Harrison Ford. But
Did you know that she had to stand on a box while filming in Hoth?
yeah, I've heard that before. But I did not know that she had heels on her combat boots in Hoth. That's a tough play for a woman to wear high heels in a combat situation. Good for her.
All right. Well, Luke, take us to your number 5.
My headset fell off. Number 5. Not that one. Mon
You said
Mothma.
in Luthen's shop.
I know. I'm sorry.
That is a picture in Luthen's shop with Luthen.
Oh man, maybe it is. Yeah, that one. Is that the same one? I'm sorry.
I think it is from a different angle
Yeah, I think it is too.
or perspective,
It
point of view. I don't know.
It was noteworthy when
From
I
a
was
certain
watching
point of view.
Andor because Mon Mothma has a lot of great outfits, but this one, when you see it from the back, which is what I really wanted to see, the sleeves on her arms, which I guess the listener is now watching this, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Good luck, Max.
The sleeves on her arm match the angle of the like crease on the sleeve. They're not sleeves, but on her back, there's like an angle line that starts and then continues on her sleeve, and it looks super cool. I like it. That's a high effort play from the costume designer, and it looks great.
We're starting to get into the territory, I think, of where I had to Google a couple of Luke's picks, and this was definitely one of them. He made it very super specific, and I was like, I do not know what he's talking about.
It's just so interesting, Luke, that it is. I mean, it fits Mon Mothma's character perfectly. It's got, I think, it's got like right angles all across it, right? And so I think it also looks very cunning in the way that she is, in a very good way. And I think it fits her personality. It's also very classy, but it's so funny. It's so odd that in the pantheon, I think of all of the costumes, that this would be their number 5, and I respect you for it. Unlike you respecting me for the Jawas. So the only thing less than a brown, it would be a white dress
It's
or
not
robe.
just a dress, though. That is so different than a.
The creases match the sleeves.
Yeah,
Matthew.
the creases match the
That
sleeves.
is neither here nor there. No. I also limited myself to just one Mon Mothma costume because I could have chosen several. I thought about taking her gold dress from the dinner party scene where she talks with the guy whose name escapes me about helping her in the rebellion. She got like one long sleeve. Well, we're not talking about that, but never mind. Cut that.
I think that's good though, because those costumes I think do go underappreciated because they're not as flashy. But I'm not even gonna make this a joke about the Jawas or anything, because I do really think that like Andor specifically, the costuming is so good, and those are more minimal costumes that don't. I don't think get enough credit because they are so simple, but I think all of Mon Mothma's costuming is very, 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 very good, and it adds to her character and her elegance. Versus when we see her in A New Hope and stuff, she's her Return. She's like very, just one note.
In Return
Robe.
of the Jedi, she's wearing a robe. Yeah,
Exactly. So it shows
Bad costume.
well, no, it's a good costume because I think like thematically it works. She has all these thrills and stuff, right? She has all
But
these.
she's given up that life.
Yes,
she doesn't have to go
exactly.
the diplomatic route
Yes.
anymore. She's a full-blown
So,
terrorist.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Hey,
What side are you
From
on?
a certain
cool
point of
it
view.
with the T word.
T-word.
All right. Well, that brings me to my number 5, and it is the only clone trooper that I had on the list. And if anyone knows anything about me, they know it's going to be the 332nd clone trooper from the Clone Wars. It is the faction, the offshoot of the 501st that went with Ahsoka on her final mission to Mandalore, and they painted their helmets. They painted their helmets to match her facial markings to show their loyalty to her. And it is so beautiful that they don't even have to say that. They just show it and you just know immediately what's going on, and it just adds so much to the tragedy of what happens later, which I think I might have already spoiled a little bit of it when I was talking about Jesse, but it shouldn't be a spoiler for anyone. Go watch the Clone Wars because it's great and these guys look sick.
The equivalent of a surprise birthday party.
Jesse was in that battalion, but didn't choose to paint his helmet because his already looked so cool.
Interesting. Yeah, his wasn't painted, was it?
No,
Oh, Jesse's kind of a bastard.
no, it's because he looked so cool already.
All right. Matthew, you're number 4.
Yes. My number 4, Bodhi Rook. One of my favorite.
Okay.
Yes, one of my favorite characters.
Glasses adjacent.
Goggles, yes.
Yeah.
Little goggles, little work goggles, little flight goggles. I love that addition specifically because if you're going to be any sort of pilot, if you're working, I assume like maybe there's a little bit of backstory potentially with him either, working on a ship or something as well, because why else would you need those goggles unless you're flying in a ship that does not have a windshield of sorts
Right.
as well, like an old school plane. So those are both options, which then just gives me more mystery. And also, I love the simplicity of the flight suit, but then it has a little bit more of that vest plus goggles. And I think Riz Ahmed is a great actor as well, and I think he's super underappreciated in that movie. But I feel like just instantly, maybe I was drawn to him most because the goggles, like, put those down, is my guy. But yes, I think Bodhi Rook is great as a character, but also I think his costuming is really interesting. And obviously, amongst the rest of the Rogue One crew, I think he stands out specifically.
I don't know how much on pod we've talked about Bodhi Rook, but as soon as I saw your list and I saw that, I was like, that makes perfect sense for Matt. Because you talk about him all the time. You love Bodhi.
I do indeed. Bodhi's like one of my favorite names for some reason.
That's a good one.
Not gonna be my son's
Having
name.
a sunsuit. Oh,
I know. I'm sorry. It's not. I tried. I put that out there and it was shot down. Just like most of these characters.
just like Rook.
No.
I said it.
Bodhi Rook's costume definitely flew under the radar for me. I never thought twice about it, but the goggles are really. I mean,
No, I'm
but
sorry.
I still like it.
I'm sorry. I'm just making faces now because I know there's a camera pointing at me.
The goggles are really cool, and it's a fun character thing because I don't remember if I was thinking it in the theater, but I definitely think it every time I watch Rogue One now. Like, Bodhi, you're in prison. You're getting tortured by Bor Gullet. Like, get rid of the goggles. You don't need them. And then it's not until his last moment when they're opening the shield gate and he's trying to reach Home One, and he throws him on the floor, and I was like, oh my god, he's got to get him now.
It's like Indiana Jones' hat. He has to grab them now. Don't leave you with all your goggles. It's your trademark.
All right. Luke, number 4.
Number 4, I have the Crimson Corsair from The Force Awakens.
Yep, this is cool.
That's a cool costume design. Everyone was talking about when it came out how Captain Phasma was like the was like the Boba Fett of the sequels, where
Book of Boba Fett. Sorry.
they look cool but they don't really do anything. And I've always said, no, it was the Crimson Corsair. He did even less and looked even cooler.
Yeah, this is really rad. In comparison to Bodhi Rook, it feels embarrassing now.
Yeah, this was another one that I actually had to Google real quick. But it's one that I really don't have anything to say about because, yeah, again, I look at him and I'm like, yep, that looks cool. I like looking at that.
Yep.
Speaking of things I like to look at, I'll take you to my number 4, which is Slave Leia, a.k.a. Hut Slayer Leia. Now,
You should have led with that one, that name.
I like it for 2 reasons. The first reason,
Gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
the first reason I don't need to talk about a whole lot. It speaks for itself. But the second reason I like it is because it is one of the greatest instances of rebranding that we've seen in modern Star Wars. All right. And now hear me out for a second. But I am sick and tired of these liberals coming in and trying to ruin my Star Wars. First they come for Slave One. Now it's Boba Fett's starship. And then, and most egregious of all, they came for my jizz. Everyone knows that the Cantina Band plays jizz music.
They do.
And in from a certain point of view, they're trying to retcon it to be Jats music. I'm sorry, but that is one step too far. It is not Jats, it is jizz, and it'll always be jizz. Jats is simply too big of a pill. The only thing I'm swallowing is jizz.
Did you write all this fucking down so you could say that? God,
No, that's stream of conscious. That was brilliant.
No, it was not.
But
The Jizz Whalers, yeah.
But when they came out and they started calling Slave Leia, when they started referring to Slave Leia as Hut Slayer, I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. I was like, yeah, they should be calling her that. That is so much cooler.
Yeah. It's weird, this costume. Like, obviously, there's like controversy around it, but also it makes a lot of sense in the fact that it's. I mean, I guess you could say they wrote the story for this specific purpose, but it also feels like it makes sense for Jabba the Hutt in that sense. I don't think anybody is going to see Star Wars for sex appeal after the first 2 movies, right? So I think it makes sense in line with the story. I don't know, but like, I mean, yeah, when I saw this when I was like 6 years old,
with George Lucas.
Yes, as we always talk about, as mostly Luke talks about. Yes.
He treats women only okay, I think.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of on the same page there. As the flight logs show,
The legend.
I don't hate this costume, but another quality that I was taking into account when I was making my list is it a good costume or was Carrie Fisher just really hot? Would an ugly person look good in this costume? And that's just a bikini, so I'd say no. I think you like Carrie Fisher's body a whole lot. The costume itself, just a bikini with a little bit of bedazzling.
That's good bedazzling, though. I don't know. But, Matt doesn't like that we compare lists beforehand and make alterations to it. He thinks it's lying to the fans. And I'd be lying to the fans if I said that this isn't in my top 10. We're talking about Star Wars costumes.
All right, that's fair.
That is
I
fair.
also like the Hut Slayer nomenclature because in Legends, that was a way bigger deal, which we haven't really explored that era that thoroughly yet in canon, so it may still be. But in like the original Thrawn trilogy, it was a big deal that Leia killed Jabba, and like people called her Hut Slayer, and they thought she was such a badass about it.
Yeah,
and in
that
the
is
current
badass.
canon, it's kind of like glossed over. Like, no, she
Killed
choked him out
yeah.
with the chain that he was using to control her. Like, that's sick.
And not only that, but it's a major crime syndicate boss.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is still recording?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, cool.
Very cool. All right, well, that takes us to our number 3s, but first, we do have a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is AG1 Athletic Greens. Finally, AG1 is filling a gap in the market and gaps in your diet. Finally, AG1 is filling a gap in the market and gaps in your diet.
You know what? I might have forgot to completely edit this all the way.
Babe, can you get me a water? Mix the AG1... Water! Water! Mix the No, I don't want Schweppes. Water! From the sink. I don't care. Mix the AG1 powder in... I'm doing an ad read. I need water. I already had coffee today. Mix the AG1 powder into any drink and... Yeah, chocolate milk's fine. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. I think that goes on for a little while, but I'm going to have a conversation with our producer about that. I don't know if we can still get paid for that one. Going back to number 3s.
Moving on to more female empowerment. That sounds like a joke. It's not. Hera Syndulla from specifically Ahsoka.
I was wondering if you were going to talk about her because I didn't mention other goggles, girl. You're just a goggles and glasses guy.
Goggles and glasses. I like
You know what you
representation.
like.
Yep. No, but it's not just the goggles. I mean, I do like the headpiece in general for her. I think it's really cool. It feels like a pilot. Like maybe I like the fact that they also just go down, like they're connected.
Mm-hmm.
So they just flip down. Have we ever seen her use them? No. In live action.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. In live action, specifically in this costume. But then also she has she also has a bomber jacket, and then also I mean with the rebellion patch on it, it's rad. I think the orange pants. I think her costume, out of the lower effort classic ones, I think this one works really well, and she looks like a functioning pilot all across the board. And I also love Hera Syndulla. So
Yeah, I like Hera. I like goggles, not as much as you.
Goggles guy.
I didn't really notice.
I have a polite respect for goggles.
I thought the same thing when I was looking through the list and I saw Bodhi and Hera back to back, and I was like, oh, I know we're talking about goggles.
And tech on the list too. Also, real quick, side note, I meant to mention this. I got trolled by something that I did. So on this, we were a big fan of this band called Tropodelic. Go listen to Tropodelic. One of our friend James is in the band, and they posted something about a music video. They're all on the porch. This is all cuttable if you wanted to, but it's funny because it relates to Star Wars in the way. So they posted a picture of everyone on the porch, and I took that photo when we were filming a music video. I was like, oh, we filmed this. I took this during the music video shoot for Hey Now. I was like, great times or something. I got a flood of comments. They're like, actually, this is from Dollar Saved. And I was like, well, I don't fucking know. I shot it. Who cares? And I was like, is this what this feels like?
you're responding to every single critic like, I filmed that one too.
Yeah, I did film that one too. And it was just like, I don't know. There's a blur from like 2017 to 2018 filming random music videos. I don't know what to tell you. This isn't my religion. Star Wars is. But it's like, is this
That's the tie to Star Wars?
That's the tie to Star Wars. That's the tie to Star Wars, because I'm just like, I feel how other people feel. They're just like, actually, that didn't happen. And we do that quite a bit. I feel like it's with Star Wars stuff, but in a nicer way. But I was just like, my God.
Yeah.
But I was getting trolled for something that like I created. I was like, what?
I promise you, I'm not lying.
Yep.
If I wasn't telling the truth, I feel like the real person would come forward and be like, what are you talking about? I filmed this. But
Yeah.
you're like, all right, I got the song wrong, but I worked on it.
Yes.
Yeah, that is frustrating. I have a lot of sympathy for you there. Trying to think of a segue. I'm sure it's not as frustrating as Luke's third pick.
My third pick, Davos Skolden. He is not a nice character. He's a good character. I like it's interesting. The villains, because some villains are fun. You know, Krennic, he's a bad guy, but I still like him. Davos Skolden, don't like at all. But his clothing is incredible. That is a dapper jacket.
Yeah, I tried to give you a segue so that I could just try to make fun of your next pick, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And then I remembered that it was this guy, another one that I had to Google. And yeah, a dapper looking gentleman. As soon as I pulled him up, I was like, that's a good costume.
Honorable mention to his son, who dresses very similarly, but with a vest.
Exactly the same color palette.
Yes.
If everyone starts dressing like with their kids in the same color palette, is insane mentality. Bad guy material.
Bad guy.
It's Chandrillin culture or something like that. But he looks awesome. So super cool. And you can't really tell in the picture that we just saw, but if you go rewatch that episode of Andor, his sleeves are, I don't want to.
Are they?
They're angled.
Oh my!
I'm a big angle guy apparently in clothing. Who knew?
That's a big thing in Andor in general, though. Have you seen like all the breakdowns of like all the geometric shapes in Andor? There's a lot of hexagonal shapes in it. It's
Makes
very
sense.
interesting.
Really?
One
Yeah.
would say that'd be on purpose. Yeah.
A lot of angles. It's weird.
Even in the clothes, and I appreciate it in the clothes. I should go rewatch it. I'll be honest, I was trying to find the exact outfit from Mon Mothma that we already talked about that I wanted to talk about when I was preparing for this list, and I got to that scene and I was like, oh, hold on though, who's this? Because I had forgotten about his costume, and when I saw it, it immediately jumped to my number 3 for crying out loud. It's
Interesting.
great.
Nice.
But it's not as good as Max's number 3, I don't think, which is I full-heartedly agree with, obviously.
All right. Mando, specifically Mandalorian season 1, episodes 1 and 2
Mm-hmm.
/3, I think. It's with the mixed matched armor. I love the mixed matched armor. I have a Mandalorian Black Series figure, but it's that one because I think that one is so much cooler. Don't get me wrong. I think Mandalorian looks sweet all the time. In his, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of that metal now.
Beskar.
Beskar armor, but the mismatched armor is so cool.
1000% agree. Also, when we both answer that question, we can edit that together just so Luke and I say the same answer at the same time about the armor. But
I'm just gonna edit it so I sound like I know what I'm saying. Hold on, give me 1 second. Beskar
Beskar.
armor.
Beskar.
Beskar armor. All right,
All right,
that'll
there
come
we go.
together real well in post.
Yes. Yes, I agree. This armor, I think, also makes more sense for the character of Din Djarin, honestly. He's got that mismatch armor. He's somebody that is consistently on the run, it feels like. Maybe not necessarily from somebody, but he is consistently on the lookout for the next job. I think this armor represents him better as a character. Plus, he just looks cooler, I think, personally. Luke, what is your opinion on this?
I like it. I didn't include it on my list, but I have no qualms with this being on anyone else's list. Star Wars has gotten a lot of flack before for being a toy merchandising franchise and not a storytelling franchise. And The Mandalorian, I think, is a real shot against those of us that think it's more than just the toys. Because when before it even came out on Triple Force Friday in 2019, they released this toy, the one that you have apparently, I have it too, with the mixed matching armor, and it looks cool. And then in episode 3, he gets a brand new set of armor. And everyone was just looking at their toys like, well, what the fuck? Now I gotta get a new one.
And then the Razor Crest.
And then they
I was just about to bring
also
up the Razor Crest.
they also release a Black Series of him fighting the Mudhorn. In episode 2, it's with the mismatched armor, but it's muddy. And then he also has one of him all icy in season 2.
Yep.
And it's like, you're just cranking this out as many different costume and environments as you can.
And to be fair, we do want it, though. Like, it's not...
Yeah, I can't argue that because I'm like, yeah, but I like toys.
I think-
Almost all the ones I'm talking about, I'm like, so what in this toy?
Yeah.
This Mandalorian figure has his Beskar armor and his Beskar spear, but this one has his Beskar armor and the Darksaber. But this one has the Beskar armor and the Darksaber and Grogu.
Yep.
And I have them all.
That just goes to show what a great costume it is. They can sell the toy 12
Definitely in the top
times,
3.
and it's always successful.
Love it. This is my number 2.
Number 2.
Number 2, it is the Rebel pilot, specifically Luke Skywalker. I love this. It's iconic, I think. I love the fact that any Rebel pilot can have it, but I also think it's an iconic orange. I think it's so distinguishable. You notice it from a mile away. It doesn't help, it doesn't hurt when you got some goggles on too. But I think ultimately this stands out to me. I love also the color palette. I had a Corkscrew water bottle that was this as well. That little like off-white cream color with the orange. There's something like so 70s and so retro about it, but also something that feels very practical in the fact that if you were to crash on Hoth or something, you can be spotted. Better for worse, I guess, technically. But yes, I love the Rebel pilot outfit personally. And there's a lot of like buttons and stuff. Like, what does any of that do?
Do you think that's why they wore orange?
I have no idea.
I've never
High
thought
vis?
about that. Yeah.
If I'm being
I don't
honest, I
know.
say that off the top of the dome, but like I feel like that could be a
That makes
reason.
sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my headcanon now. That's
Thank
super
you.
interesting.
Yeah, I really like it.
You said
Also,
specific Luke Skywalker because of the helmet?
no, I prefer Wedge's helmet actually. So I just specifically in this photo that I'm looking at, he's got the higher collar, which also just makes more sense, especially if
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
cold or whatever out. But I think the art is so practical, and I think it just expands in my head where it's just like, okay, like if you're looking at like current day military uniforms, they're obviously all like drab and green and brown and stuff, but it's like, why bright orange for the rebellion? I don't know, I just like it. It's like the little bit of a fuck you to like the the normalcy of everything too. But yeah, I like it. I also do love the X-Wing pilot helmets. Again, prefer Wedge's though, because it's green. It's my favorite color next to black.
I had the thought when you were saying specifically Luke Skywalker's Rebel pilot costume, because, and maybe this is more of a force for thought unless I'm just forgetting something, but he has his Rebel pilot costume on in Hoth and then goes straight to Dagobah and he's wearing it on Dagobah. Does he have like an overcoat or anything on Hoth, or are we to believe that costume is comfortable in both Hoth and Dagobah?
I don't know.
Does he take layers off when he gets to Dagobah?
Have you ever?
Is he
let me
hot
tell
as
you.
hell this whole time?
Have you ever worn an LL Bean swishy jacket half zip? Because let me tell you, it's good for cold and warm.
Oh, I sweat way too much for that. I would have to disagree, but I know I've never worn it.
If
The
we're
LL
even-
Bean? Oh, let me.
I've never worn it either. I'll take your
It's fantastic. I wear
judgment,
them all the
because if
time.
we're even close to that technology here, then surely Star Wars has it.
That's what I'm saying.
Also, does he bring? Well, he did change, so I guess he did bring extra clothes on that X-wing somehow. But I always get anxiety when he hops off the X-wing and he goes like knee deep into the swamp, and I'm always like, "Oh, you just ruined that outfit."
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, like you're gonna have wet socks for a week now.
I always get anxiety because I wouldn't. Can you imagine just hopping in a swamp like that? I mean, we have like alligators in our world. Who knows? This is a whole new world, and it looks horribly infested with all kinds of creatures. And I know there was a creature that did try to get him, but just the brazenness to just hop right in.
Yeah, that's true.
Luke Skywalker, man,
Yeah,
the
that's
guy
the
without
difference.
fear. Yeah.
Is that courageous or stupid
Might be a bit of both. Maybe it takes a little bit of stupidity to be courageous.
from a certain point of view? Yeah. What's the difference?
Luke, you're number 2.
Number 2, I went into video games, The Second Sister from Jedi Fallen Order.
Tight.
Yeah. It's one thing, she got a really cool cape, red inlay and black outlay, or whatever the official terms are. As much as I like costumes, I don't know that much about the fashion industry. Exhibit A, my solid colored t-shirt and sweatpants that you can't see that I wear almost every day.
Not a lot of angles there.
But it looks super rad, just the costume, and then the helmet is also awesome.
Yep.
One of
Yeah.
the cooler helmets, I think, in all of Star Wars.
It looks a little Stormtrooper. It looks a little Darth Vader-y in the back, right? It just looks like instead of going straight down, it points out a
Yeah.
bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely super rad. Probably insanely hard to see out of.
It's the same thing my wife said. Isn't it canon that there is some sort of like visual display for all these people that have narrow visors, that it like has a wide angle lens and they can see fine? They're like not actually seeing out of this little stretch of.
Not Fennec Shand, because she doesn't have a visor. She actually looks out of that skinny little narrow gap.
That's true.
Yeah, that's fair. But
So-
everyone else.
Yeah. Until it shows like Tony Stark or something, I will not believe
That's
it.
what I'm saying. Haven't we seen something kind of similar to that? Like
don't know.
POV of Jango Fett or something?
I
and
don't think
it's-
so. Live action film wise, I don't.
I don't think live action, but I would have to think harder about that. I was actually just watching a video today of a friend of the pod, Jonathan from Star Wars Collected. Go check him out. He was doing an unboxing. He got a couple new helmets, and one of them was the Second Sister helmet, and it looks really good.
That's cool.
I bet. Yeah, that's exciting for him.
All right. Well, that brings me to my number 2, and it is one of the most iconic costumes of all, and it is Darth Vader. I had to put him at number 1 or 2, right? I mean, there's a reason that you can identify a character just from his shadow alone. You know that's an iconic costume right there. But it instills fear in you. It's almost all black. It's intimidating. If I were to be super specific, I would have to say A New Hope Darth Vader, where he has the more red
Mhm.
eyes.
Yeah,
Why
lenses.
can't lenses. Thank you. But yeah, it's Darth Vader.
Do
He's
you have
gotta
a
be up
preference
I
in
agree.
his like costume in between the different movies? Because that
I
also
don't-
changes slightly.
there? There is. What is it though? I feel like people say like the colors of the buttons or something like that on his
No,
chest plate.
his sleeves are different in Empire from A New Hope.
The
and
sleeves, interesting.
I
didn't know
think
that.
he had like the Jedi stole. I think it's a stole in like the Catholic Church, the thing that priests wear. The piece that goes like from your shoulder down to your belt on either side. I think he has that in A New Hope and not one of them. I don't know. It's pretty different if you look at them all side by side. He sometimes has the chain around his neck, sometimes doesn't.
I do like the chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's a little gaudy. It feels that's the most uncharacteristic thing about Vader is that there is a chain. It's not just like a black robe. It's like no, that is a G of a chain.
He sometimes has his neck fixed and he can't turn his head. I think
Yep.
in A New Hope he doesn't turn his head,
That's true.
just turns body.
Very
Oh.
Batman-y.
I was just about to say, like in Batman.
Yep. But yeah, I agree. This was, I'd argue it is the most iconic costume of all time. We've talked, obviously to endless extent about this, and
That's
I
such a
will
statement,
continue to.
but I think it's right.
Yeah,
What
I think
else
it is.
Could it be? Yeah, it's
know.
got to be.
I think it is it's recognizable to anybody who has not even seen Star Wars. Everyone knows who Darth Vader is. It's iconic. It's can scare the living hell out of you. If that is walking towards you right now, like from this hallway, yeah, I'd be scared.
Yeah.
Like even though I know it's like a costume, it's like no, that is frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's one of the more exciting ones to see cosplays of because somehow the cosplay community has it perfect.
Yep.
And they can get them exactly screen accurate, and it is just as intimidating as if I was on the set of an actual Star Wars movie and I'm just like walking down a convention and Darth Vader walks the other way and I like clench my butt a little. I'm like, oh my God.
It demands
stand up a little straighter.
respect
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, yeah, I definitely think it's one of the most iconic costumes in all of Star Wars. I think the only things that might be able to top it are our next number ones. But first, let's do a couple honorable mentions. What else was on your list that didn't quite make the cut?
For me, I had Echo in the Bad Batch. He was my favorite.
Oh,
Bad
that's a-
Batch
yeah,
clone.
that's a great
I
one.
like how his helmet like warps around his head implant when he puts it on. There's
Yeah, that
like
is a
one
cool
cutaway
feature.
GIF that I've seen from one episode where you see it like actually work.
Which I'm really glad that they animated. They really didn't need to address that.
No,
they
they
could just
did that
say
for
it's
us.
animation. It's a show. Get over it. You know,
Yeah.
like he wears his helmet how he wears his helmet. But
Yep.
the fact that they went out of their way to animate that to be like, if anyone cares how this fits together,
Here it is.
yeah.
My other honorable mentions are Rex. I like his
Mhm.
helmet, specifically when they make the transition to phase 2, because he keeps his phase 1. I forget which part it is exactly, but he's got like the weld marks around his mouth because he kept part of his phase 1 helmet and
Yeah, it's half
melded
phase
it
1,
into phase
yeah.
2,
Very cool.
and that's really cool. And my third honorable mention, which I can't believe is down here as my third honorable mention, but it's Queen Amidala from The Phantom Menace. Definitely the highest effort wardrobe we've ever seen in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Definitely the highest practicality costume we've ever seen. There are several books written about how cool that costume is, and there's like an escape hatch so the queen could just like slip out if she's in danger. It's well insulated with armor. If she's in danger, it's got like hidden blasters. It's super cool. The only reason I didn't put it higher is because I tried to limit myself to just one Padme costume,
Hmm.
and we still have that to go. But I also don't love the aesthetic that much. The white face paint with the big headdress, it's just not my style.
Not a big
I
fan
don't
of
know.
white face.
No, I guess not.
I think
like
it's
the
cool.
little. The dress has like little egg things at the bottom too. Have you ever looked at those little bulbs?
Ooh, no. I'll have to
Yeah,
find,
look
I'll
at
have
the
to,
bottom of her dress. You're talking about the red dress, right?
yeah.
It has like yellow orb. Ah man, if you're not looking at a picture, this is hard to explain.
Well, the outside the audience probably will.
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going. That guy is nailing this description right
Are
now.
you talking about the red dress that she wears on Naboo in the beginning of the movie, not the red robes she's wearing on Coruscant when Anakin goes to see the Queen? Because for the longest time I thought that was the same costume, but it's not. Those are just like bathrobes, but super elegant.
That's true. I don't know. It might be one of the other.
I think you might be thinking of that.
I might cut this and I'll just put the one that I'm thinking of on here since I'm editing this
Let's do that.
episode. So
Oh, there it is.
That way you just sound wrong.
Yes. Boom.
Perfect.
All right, Matthew.
Yes, my honorable mentions is Captain Panaka from Phantom Menace.
Good call. All reliable, Matt. That is an
All
excellent
reliable.
costume.
I love his stupid little hat that looks like he's on safari. I think that this is the perfect
like he's a
action
chauffeur.
figure. Yes, it feels and looks like 1999.
It does. I've seen a cosplay of it, and it was perfect, of course, because they always are. And I remember I'm usually like in awe when I see a cosplay. When I saw that one, I was like, that looks kind of dumb. There's no
Yep.
way that's what he really looks like. And I pulled up a picture of Captain Panaka, and I was like, oh my god, really?
It is. And then going in tandem with that is Padme and her red battle dress or battle outfit from Phantom Menace as well. In that same scene towards the end where they're back on Naboo. And she's got her stupid little Men in Black gun.
I almost included that one too, but again, limited
I
myself to
think
one
it's
Padme
sweet
costume.
when I think back to those movies and being a kid and growing up and watching those movies and stuff too. Those feel all very tangible for some reason. They feel very very nostalgic for some reason. But I really like both of those outfits.
You might not like that blaster, but if we ever do an episode about just the sound effects of Star Wars, the
Yeah.
sound of that blaster might make my list.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's a cool looking. It was a cool toy too. But
That toy just got announced. It's coming to the Black Series line. It's one of the next ones coming out. along with
giddy up.
the
Yeah, they're doing a
Annie.
lot of Phantom Menace stuff.
They must have heard that it's the 25th year anniversary, and Force for Thought's covering it all May.
Yeah.
looking forward to it, folks.
A couple of my honorable mentions. I had the First Order TIE pilot.
Yep.
I don't know how to explain it if
Like
you're
the
not
TIE
looking at a
pilot
picture,
from the
but-
original trilogy, but cooler.
Yeah, it's just like a strict improvement in almost every single way. I don't know. It's really cool. And I like that it's not completely symmetrical either. I don't know. I like that. And then also the Shore Trooper, another Rogue One original. So,
One of my favorites too.
yeah,
Shore
another,
Troopers are
another
awesome.
great one.
Do you think if I had a Shore Trooper toy and a Tank Trooper toy from The Mandalorian Season 2, you could tell a difference?
Yes. Because I
You
do
think you
have
could?
those.
Oh. They look so similar.
Case in point, there's one right there behind Matt's head.
No, that's the... Is that the one I'm thinking of? That's the Tank Trooper I thought from Solo.
That's the... I need to look closer now. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's the Tank Trooper.
Who's the one on the left? We need a toy camera.
Toy cam.
Just looking at that
Do need a toy
shelf
camera.
that I've been looking at all day.
All right. All right. Well, let's get into our number ones, Matthew.
Yes. My number one of all time is Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi, the specific black costume. Once again, black is my favorite color, or lack thereof. But it is what's better than that? I mean, he's got his green lightsaber, which is my also my favorite color. So when I saw this as a kid, I was like, oh, why doesn't he wear that all the time? Please wear that all the time. That is my favorite one. That is, again, like if I was to cosplay or something with that would be the costume specifically. That's my favorite lightsaber. That's my favorite costume. It's like, what's better than a Jedi that wears black and it's nothing? Because I feel like that's what I would do, to be like, maybe I'm a little bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
Come find out.
A lot of behind the scenes talk over that outfit too.
Yes.
Which I'm sure the three of us know, but for our listeners who might not, when they decided that they wanted to do the black outfit, somebody was like, "Well, George, he's a Jedi. Like, shouldn't he like be wearing like lighter colored robes? Isn't black kind of like synonymous with like the dark side?" And George Lucas was like, "Well, that's the point. That's what he's struggling with this episode." And then at the very end, when Luke affirms himself as a Jedi and saves Darth Vader, redeems his father, that little flap on his chest opens up, and it's the only white in his outfit.
Yep. And that is specifically my favorite look as well. I love it.
With a little bit of white.
Yep. I think it's cool as
Battle
hell.
damage. Is that battle damage? Or is it just poor sewing?
Yeah. Came undone after a battle, so I'd consider it battle damage.
Comes out.
All right. Yeah, that's also a low effort in terms of costume design but it looks cool enough that I would also put it high on my list. That's
cool.
badass. My number one, Padme, from the scene when she talks about sand with Anakin and they kiss on Naboo. She got that multicolored. It's super cool. It's not just that Natalie Portman is really hot, because an ugly person can wear that dress and it would still look fantastic. Any of us could wear that dress and it would look fantastic. The colors, the seemingly random spots where it connects to your body, like just neck and arms, is so bizarre. I love it.
Well,
I'm
Matt,
gonna
Favorite costume, didn't even have to think about this one. When I sat down to make my list, instant number one.
Matt has Photoshop, so I'm sure we can get the answer to that question.
Yeah, that'd be. Well, yeah, look at our Instagram. I think it's gonna be up right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm gonna say what we've been thinking this entire time. I think you have a dress kink, Luke. You've named like 3 dresses, and you're like super passionate about him.
Some of them just look really nice.
Again, a Star Wars
I
celebration.
want to see your search history.
We saw a couple Padme cosplayers, and every time Luke was blown away. He was like, "Wow, that is such a good Padme
Maybe
dress."
you should have went into costume design.
Like for my career,
Yeah,
maybe it'll be next.
yeah, you should do it. Get some sketches going.
All right. Well, that brings me to my number one, the last one, and it is the only costume that I think is more iconic than Darth Vader, and that is Boba Fett.
Yeesh.
Enough
Yep.
said,
That's
right?
not more iconic than
It's-
Darth Vader, though. I get that it's your number one over 2.
I don't know. I think it may be more iconic than Darth Vader, but obviously everyone knows Boba Fett now, right? I mean, Empire Strikes Back, you see him, you immediately gravitate towards him. He's mysterious. You want to know more about him. And let's be honest, a lot of that has to do with the costume. And a lot of the design for Boba Fett was based on some of the early Ralph McQuarrie sketches for the Stormtroopers, which was later actually re-canonized, I think, in Clone Wars when Obi-Wan Kenobi goes like undercover and he like changes his face somehow. I forget how that all
Yes.
No, that's
But-
right. That's it.
works. Yeah, there you go.
He gets face changing surgery.
But anyway, that I'm getting on a weird tangent. Back to Boba Fett. If I were to be super specific, I would have to say
I was gonna ask, can you be super specific?
Mandalorian season 2 Boba Fett, when he just gets his armor back and it is even more battle damaged and like all the paint's rusting off and everything.
Yeah.
I think that looks so cool. That first shot when you see a Boba Fett with his armor back on, when that camera like pans up at him, that is such a good shot. And I like it significantly more than when he repaints it, because there is a repaint version and it just
The
looks too
re-armored.
clean. Yeah, the re-armored. And I'm just like, give me the battle damage.
I agree. I like the Empire one better because I don't love his Tuscan robes with the outfit.
I don't like that either.
I think it looks hokey and weird, and it just doesn't match. I feel like stylistically, it's like, what is going on? But I also feel like when the Black Series came out, I got the re-armored version because I love the Empire Strikes Back and Return costuming for him because it feels more retro. I love the yellow and the orange, yellow and the red with the beige and the green. I think it's a great color combo. But I got the re-armored one because I thought the Black Series helmet looked too fakey for the Empire battle damage version. And then I got the rearmored, you got the 40th anniversary, and I much prefer the 40th anniversary. And because I was just like, the pictures were not as good.
I really like the Boba Fett costume. I had so much turmoil thinking about it while I was making this list because I didn't want to get bogged down in semantics and like which do I actually prefer, because I have Jango Fett's higher because I like blue more than green, I like the clean more than the battle damage, and I like dual wielding more than single. But then it's like the effort. It's just
That
Boba
is interesting
Fett's,
how all that came together there.
Yep,
it's
bada
just,
bing.
but low effort because it's just Boba Fett reskinned. So then I thought maybe Boba Fett with re-armor because I like the clean, but I don't like the Tuskens. And then I thought, should I just not include any of this because I know Max or Matt are going to have it as their 1 or 2, so it won't matter anyway. And I just got so bogged down in the weeds that I just eliminated them all entirely. But of course, I like Boba Fett's armor pie more than Zori Bliss's.
That's funny. All right. Well, there you have it. Those are our top 10 costumes, outfits, uniforms, trooper designs, etc. Does anyone have any force for thought?
I do. I was rewatching A New Hope recently. It's my nap movie. I turn it on when I want to take a nap because it's so slow. I usually fall asleep before the cantina. But during that time, there's all the R2-C3PO content, and it's kind of a victim of the ever-expanding universe and all the prequels and all the lore we get, that they are so close. The two droids are so intertwined. I know we've talked before, C-3PO gets his memory wiped after episode 3, but that's still 19 years until A New Hope, and they've been together seemingly that whole time, and then they get to Tatooine, and C-3PO is like, all right, go that way, see if I care, I'm going this way. Fuck them. This is it.
That's probably
then he's
Presumably
gonna just leave him
19 years
forever.
together, and he's just willing to cut that cord.
And then he sees him in the sand cooler, and he's like, oh, thank God, I'm so happy to see you. And then Luke takes him, and he doesn't even turn around. He's like, all right, red one? Sure. You're with me now. And he does stick up for R2 after, but if R4 did not break, I don't think C-3PO would have thought about him
Did
once
he break
more.
or did he self-destruct? You got it. This is a plug for the from a certain point of view for the R4
That's true.
story.
And for that one episode when I defended R4 so much, was it our draft? I forget.
Yeah, it was a draft.
That was a long time ago. I forgot about that. Yeah.
But yeah, A New Hope, C-3PO is just like, go, fine, go that way, see if I care. It's like, what? Of course he cares.
I like to think that they had that relationship the entire time, though, where they're just like,
Fate just keeps pulling them back
they're
together.
they're like the
C-3PO
odd
is trying
couple.
to abandon this guy.
Yes.
He's like, he cannot leave me alone.
Yep. And that's the relationship.
That's so funny. Okay, well, let us know what you think. Let us know if you think C-3PO is a dick, or let us know what you think of our rankings, if there's any glaring omissions that you thought deserved an honorable mention, or maybe even a spot on the list. You can reach out to us at Gmail, forceforthought@gmail.com, or you can follow us on social media at forceforthought.
See you, Sammy.
Cut that again. I'm getting up.